Good morning, everyone, and let me say that it's a real pleasure to host you here in these great facilities of Deutsche Bank here in London. And it's also an honor for me to welcome you in this sixth Sustainability Day for Repsol in this London city. And this is the sixth time we have held this event. And let me say that I'm very proud of this event because it's a proof of the engagement, active and transparent engagement that we have in Repsol with investors in issues related to sustainability. As a starting point today, I like to say that during 2019, Repsol has been working with investors in developing further commitments to strengthen the alignment of our public position on climate with that of the industry association in which Repsol, our company, is a member. And I'm very happy to announce today that Repsol will support and lobby for effective measures across all areas of public policy that aim to mitigate climate change risk and share the ambition to limit temperature rise to well below 2 degrees Celsius. Repsol will act in situations where policy engagement is found to be misaligned with Repsol's climate policy or with the goals of the Paris Agreement. As a consequence of this commitment, we will go through a review of the industry association during 2020, and a report with all these conclusions will be published during the third quarter of next year, 2020. Let me say that this step is another proof of our commitment, of our transparency with our shareholders, the stakeholders, and society in the fight against climate change. Transparency is the best tool we have to build trust as we make progress through the energy transition that Mariano Marzo described some minutes ago. And let me also underline that our dialogue with investors this year has also resulted in a number of recognitions. I'm very proud to say that a new study from the Transition Pathway Initiative, TPI, issued last September, found that just two oil and gas companies have emissions ambitions in line with the Paris Agreement, and Repsol being one of those. The TPI report also assesses carbon management quality, that is corporate governance of climate risk for 135 leading oil and gas, electric and coal mining firms. And Repsol has been ranked as a leader, obtaining the maximum score, 4/4. We are conscious about the polarization of the debate surrounding climate change. We are also, as a company, aware of the difference in opinion of some sectors, including regulators, including public opinion in general terms, with regard to the role of energy companies in the energy transition. And let me say that I'm really proud of being the CEO of an energy company, and I believe that we are doing the right thing in meeting current energy demands, these growing demands that Mariano Marzo explained some minutes ago, but at the same time trying to be part of the solution to the climate change issue while providing at the same time safe, affordable, and clean energy for development of society. Based on conversation with you, with investors, we have the conviction that we have the support for the way we are embracing the energy transition. And for us, that is a key priority, because one of the ambitions we have is to generate long and sustainable value for our shareholders. And let me finish this short introduction emphasizing that our most recent shareholders identification report confirms that the presence of responsible investors, many of whom are represented here today in this room, has vastly increased within our shareholder base. According to our latest news, our latest records, ESG investors currently manage 30% of our identified institutional shareholders base and 14% of our total capital. That figure represents a 260% increase over the last 8 years. And as we have reiterated on many occasions, this is not by chance. That is because sustainability is at the very heart of the strategy of our company. And I mean, I realize that our task is not easy at all. Mr. Marceau explained in a very clear way the real dimension of the challenge some minutes ago. And my own dilemma as a CEO is, I mean, to be able at the same time of providing long-term value for our shareholders, at the same time delivering quarter after quarter in the P&L of the company, in the cash generation and so on, but at the same time paving the way to be a different company for the future. I mean, transforming the base of the company to be successful in terms of coping with the climate change issue. It's not an easy task at all. It's a real dilemma, but let me say, it's the only way and the only alternative we have to create and to make long-term value for our shareholders. On a personal level, it's the 4th year in a row that I'm leading this event here in London, along with this year with the lead independent director and president of the Sustainability Committee of the company, Mariano Marzo, Luis Cabra, our CFO, Antonio Lorenzo, and I'm very pleased to join with this team this event this year, because I mean we need this kind of events and we need this kind of interaction with you, with investors, with analysts involved in this ESG criteria to cope with the strategy we need to overcome the dimension of the challenges and defies we have for the future. I mean, broadly speaking, we feel that there is no silver bullet solution in the fight against climate change. We understand that climate change is a global issue and the joint efforts of all countries will be needed to overcome this challenge. But even the efforts of developed countries, the reality is that CO2 emission level is still increasing in the world, as there are still some regions that don't have the same needs and the same priorities we have here in Europe. And it is paradoxical that many years after the endorsement and the approval of the Kyoto Protocol, coal is still the energy source with highest growth in the world due to the economic expansion of Asian countries, according to the 2018 data provided by the International Energy Agency. So, I mean, I like to, and I want to underline that the picture is not easy at all. Everyone seems to have the same ambitions, but priorities don't seem to be the same for everybody and for every country and for every company. We face a very unbalanced situation while facing global warming, and we need to have a better global governance of climate. Leadership of just a world region is very important, but it's not enough if the rest of the world don't follow the leader. But, I mean, everybody has to underline its own ambition, and we want to speak about our own commitment and ambition as Repsol. And I like to focus now on the path Repsol feels the energy transition should take. First, we understand that the challenge is huge, and we think that the road to work should be ambitious, sustainable, and balanced. The energy transition must follow a path that has to be efficient in terms of cost benefit, in which technological neutrality has to be respected, free competition has to be encouraged, and people's well-being has to be the main goal of any energy policy. And in Repsol, we understand that energy transition must start with the tools we have in our hands now. I mean, the contribution of all forms of energy will be necessary as they all have their own specific context, role, and place respecting the global economic growth. So we shouldn't despise any action to contribute or that could contribute to CO2 reduction. All efforts are going to be necessary to fight climate change, both those oriented to the short term to curb the emissions in the short term, so now, and of course, those that could reshape in some way the curve for the future of the energy arena, for the future. I mean, many times we have mentioned that sustainability is integral to the way we conduct business. I mean, for us, it's not greenwashing, it's not blah, blah, blah. Sustainability is at the very heart of the decision-making process in our company, in Repsol. That is why Repsol sustainability has a clear impact in terms of remuneration of everybody in the company, starting from myself, from the CEO, at 25% of my remuneration in long-term and short-term is related to these sustainability targets. The compensation of all the high management of Repsol maintain this alignment, but even in a lot of business in the company since 2012, we have all the employees with a variable remuneration that we call green payment linked to the CO2 emission of a business of a task for all the workers. We are talking about the 4,300 workers of the refining business of Repsol, or the 3,100 workers of the chemical business of Repsol. We are committed also to achieve Paris goals, and we are prepared to fight climate change. And in line with this International Energy Agency Sustainable Development scenario that Mr. Marzo explained some minutes ago, our ambition as Repsol is to reduce enough 40% our carbon intensity as a company in line with the Paris Agreement by 2040. And working more than talking, we will start with reducing in a 2.3% at the end of this year this carbon intensity, and the target we have is a reduction in a 3% by 2020. And to be clear, we are one of the few companies that are committing to reduce the carbon intensity, not only coming from the CO2 or the methane emissions coming from our operations. I mean, we are taking the whole scope, the so-called scope 3. That means the emissions coming from the products we sell to our clients, so our energy products. And in order to further focus our efforts towards that broad goal, we define some kind of levers or some kind of additional objectives with clear timelines, as reducing by 3 million tons per year the CO2 equivalent emitted from our operation from now to 2025 as compared to 2017, which adds to the reduction already achieved of 4.6 million tons in 2017 as compared to 25. And we are also committed to reducing at 25% our methane emissions intensity by 2025, by a 50% our routine flaring in 2025, with the target of getting rid in a full way of any routine flaring by 2030, following the targets established by the World Bank. We have defined specific lines of action to achieve those goals that are at the very heart of our company strategy, which are already being executed. The first, keeping as a company with a high gas to oil ratio. You know the figures, I'm not going to repeat there, but you know that we have 73% of our reserves are today gassy. Secondly, reducing the carbon footprint of our existing processes and products by increasing the energy efficiency. We have currently a program to invest 500 million euros in our industrial plants in efficiency programs. Third, developing advanced fuels and biofuels. Today, in our refineries, we are producing 1.2 million tons per year of biodiesel using vegetable oils. We are today producing 400,000 tons of HVO, hydrotreated vegetable oil, in our refineries. We are now working in a new plant, a biorefinery in Cartagena, in the southeast part of Spain, to double our HBO production for biofuels, including biojet. Today, the approach we have is that this investment is going to account for 150, 160 million euros approach. Fourth, we are increasing our share of chemicals, developing high value-added products, because these materials, they are going to retain the CO2. They are not going to emit any CO2 over their life. We are, on top of that, entering into a new low-carbon business as a renewable power generation. Joao is going to speak about that a bit later. We are entering in the electricity and gas retail. We are becoming a multi-energy company as Repsol, progressively sophisticating our offer, including advanced energy services and covering all our client needs. Keep on investing in research, development, and corporate venturing is also a must for us in technologies like green hydrogen, waste to fuel, e-fuels, and of course, betting on carbon capture, use, and storage, because we are going to need this reduction of this kind of sinks, either CCUS or some natural sinks, to overcome this challenge that Mr. Marzo described some minutes ago. So we definitely see energy transition not as a threat, but as an opportunity for our company. We are improving our current businesses. We are building new ones, mainly taking advantage of our strengths and our competitive advantages. And 1 year ago, we were here in London in the Sustainability Day, when we launched our power and gas retail business. So 1 year later, mainly leveraging the 10 million clients we have in Spain in the energy sector, we are already close to 1 million clients in the power business in Spain. So we are building this position. We are starting to build renewable generation projects to provide energy when we have short positions coming from these market positions we have. And we are entering in the whole value chain, taking advantage of this integration to target double-digit returns in this business we are building now. We are using our in-house capabilities, and we are hiring the best professionals from the sector. You know that due to the history of the renewable sector in Spain, we are in the right place to build these organic capabilities in terms of boosting and fostering this renewable energy business in our country. So Repsol is moving with any kind of ambiguity towards becoming a significant player in low emissions power generation on the Iberian Peninsula. Today we have a total installed capacity of 2.9 gigawatts, 3 hydraulic power plants, 2 combined cycles, and a storage facility already in place. And we are building 1.1 gigawatts of renewable energy in our country, 3 wind projects onshore and 2 solar projects. So what is next in our company after 2020? My full priorities now are, of course, first of all, delivery, what we commit in the 2020 targets and define in our strategic update 2018-2020. And delivering at the same time the energy transition with creating value to our shareholders. When talking about energy transition, uncertainty is a big challenge. The world will still need hydrocarbons for decades. Even in the most extreme scenarios, this need appears in a clear way. Natural decline of the existing production without further investment in exploration can easily be a 5% of decline per annum. So, as Repsol, being fully aligned with Paris means that we are looking at the sustainable development scenario of the International Energy Agency, which is predicting that oil demand will be lower than it is now in 2040. The consensus is that this oil demand peak will be somewhere between 2030 and 2037, depending on the different scenarios, while gas will still be near 1/4 of the energy mix in 2040 at worldwide level. Therefore, following delivery of our strategic plan by 2020, what is going to be the picture of Repsol in this sustainable development scenario? For the E&P business, value per barrel and cash generation are going to be the full priorities. Long reserve life won't be an obsession to me at all, because we are confident we can sustain production and generate cash. I see in coming years an active portfolio management in the E&P in Repsol as a main support of this strategy. We want our E&P business to generate cash and to be profitable at a moderate oil price in the range of $50-$55 per barrel. That is a very prudent approach to business in a Paris-related climate scenario. In synthesis, value will be our main driver versus growth in the E&P, focusing on portfolio optimization and synergies advantages. For refining, our target is to continue being a first quartile operator in margins and in low carbon footprint also, for which we are already shaping and investing in our refining system for 2025 and beyond, and we are defining our roadmap to reduce in an additional dramatic way the CO2 emission level in our refining system. For retail and low carbon business, the new plan will bring a confirmation of our 2025 targets, and let me say that there is room for somewhat higher ambition related to the targets we describe and define in our strategic update. So under these general guidelines, by the end of 2020, we are going to renew our strategy for the period 2021-2025, where our response to the energy transition and climate ambition, together with financial stability and shareholders' return, and these elements are going to be the key drivers of this strategy we are going to present at the end of 2020. We will firmly commit the 2025 carbon intensity reduction and maybe provide orientation to 2030 reduction towards the Paris-related ambition in this pathway of achieving a 40% of reduction of the carbon intensity in the company in terms of CO2 emission level by every energy unit we produce by 2040. Along the year 2020 and beyond, we will continuously monitor the evolution of worldwide governance in terms of climate change, and thus we can reassure that our commitments are fully aligned and consistent with global governance on climate. This is the way we consider we can best serve the world, by supplying the energy that the world needs to grow and to sustain the well-being of human beings in the world, but at the same time coping properly with the climate change problem we have. And of course, combining all that with the remuneration of our shareholders as a result of meeting energy demands and keeping healthy businesses in our portfolio. Finally, allow me to say that, as a CEO of the company, I have to realize again and to recognize that it's not an easy task at all, because it's very easy to deliver results, P&L and cash in the short term, quarter after quarter, without any kind of concern about the sustainability and the future of the company. At the same time, let me say, it's quite easy to define a future scenario in the long term being sustainable with any kind of concern in the short term, providing and delivering cash and P&L. The real dilemma and the real challenge we have, and I think that we are coping in a proper way, overcoming this dilemma, is to do these kind of things at the same time. We are delivering, we are performing in the right way, but at the same time, we are transforming our businesses because we are convinced that climate change and coping with the CO2 reduction challenge is not a threat for us. It's mainly an opportunity. And let me finish underlining an approach that perhaps some of you have listened from me sometimes. I mean, when in 2010 we had a strong competitiveness problem in our refining business, and we had to pay for the CO2 emitting in our plants, we had two options. I mean, to define this CO2 emission as a threat for our business, or to say if CO2 is the consequence of the energy consumption of our plants and energy is the main cost we have, why not taking this CO2 reduction program as the main key driver we have to transform our business? We did that. We related and linked all the remuneration of all the people, all the targets of all the people working in this business to this green and CO2 reduction approach. That was 9 years ago in the middle of the refining crisis in Europe, the key driver of the strategy to overcome the competitiveness of that business. So we are trying to apply the same objective, the same challenge, and the same philosophy to the rest of Repsol, taking the climate change as the main driver to transform the businesses we have and to be more competitive, combining this difficult dilemma, being profitable, delivering in the short term, but at the same time being consistent with this scenario we are drawing for the future. I mean, we need you. We need you because we need the understanding, we need the feedback, and we need this kind of clear, consistent, and transparent engagement from investors, from sustainable investors, to support this strategy. That is the main objective we have today here in London, and thank you for being here with us. Thank you very much.